Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And welcome to this channel, the science class, especially to all year 3 students, year 3 pupils of Brunei Darussalam. For those who are new, let me introduce myself as Cikgu Roni. Now, before we start our lesson, we always start with reciting dua. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbi zidni ilma warzuqni fahma wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Okay, for the topic for this week would be we shall check unit 1 grouping living things, which is about grouping plants. So this week's topic would be grouping plants. So what we need to do is our objective would be to classify plants into their height, which is tall or short, and size, big or small. Classified means to group plants into tall group or short group and big group or small group. So we shall make groups, identify plants and classify them or group them. And we shall also talk about classify flowering plants and non-flowering plants, to group plants into flowering plants and non-flowering plants. So this would be a long lesson. So stay with me. Okay, how do we do it would be we shall talk about plants and then we shall talk about size and height of plants, and then we then talk about plants that have flowers and plants that do not have flowers based on the textbook. This textbook, Science Star Science Year 3. Now we shall continue with before we continue with classifying, we shall start first with identifying plants. We must identify plants, we must know its name. Now we start with there are many types of plants. Yeah, we have seen plants. There are many types of plants. That one, that one, that one. There are many plants that we have seen, but we do not know its name. What's the name of this plant? I'm not sure. But then now we need to identify first, then we can move on with classification of plants or grouping of plants. Yeah, last one. Another last one. So we start with this plant, this on my hand, this side. Actually, this is right side in the video. In now, this is my right hand, but then I think in the video it looks like left hand, but it's okay. Now this plant is known as a coconut palm or coconut tree, and take a look here. This plant, small plant, not this big one, the small one, this side, the bottom one, the greenish color is the same like this. It's called moss. Okay, next plant would be this man. Take a look at this. The man is holding a tree, and this tree have red fruits are called rambutan tree. This tree is called rambutan tree. And then another one, everyone knows this, I think. This is called watermelon plant. So let's take a look at another type of plant. And this plant, I don't think we have here. We do not have this plant in Brunei Darussalam. This is called maple tree. And from maple tree, it can produce maple syrup, like sugary liquid for our pancakes. And this other plant on my side, this side, we can find it in our school. Usually it looks like round bushes with red flowers like these colors or maybe different colors. And this is called Ixora, Ixora, Ixora plant. Next plant would be this one is a big plant. It is called mango tree. We do have this in our school, maybe in your home. Okay, and next we have this. Yeah, I think we have this some variety of this plant. It's called pine tree. We do have pine tree, maybe not the same like this pine tree. Maybe it's not the same, maybe different version of pine tree, but it's called pine tree. Now, next plant that we need to learn in your book, in this book. Now, all plants, now remember, all plants in this video are based on your science textbook. So it's the same. So what you can see here is more or less the same plants, but it's different. One is called bracken fern, and the other is called maiden maiden hair fern. Maiden hair fern. Okay, it looks the same, but it's different. This is more, I think this is thinner. Yeah, thinner. The name is different. It's the same family, fern, but it's different. Now let's take a look at this one. Next plant would be something that you always see. This is called frangipani. And the next plant would be, this usually you have this at home. Usually years ago, we have this at home. Lots of people likes to plant this as a decoration. And this is called bougainvillea plant. Bougainvillea plant. Okay, next plant that we need to see is we do not have this at our home, maybe in the forest. It's called a flesia plant. And next would be, I'm not sure about this tree, yeah, I'm not sure about this one, but this is called not bougainvillea. That's wrong. It is called, let me correct that. Let me correct that for 1 second. No, 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 no. No, one more. Now the correct name would be Flame of the Forest. Now that is the correct name. Flame of the Forest. Now let's take a look. No. Okay, Flame of the Forest. So that plant is Flame of the Forest. Now next plant that we need to learn is this one. Now it looks like this when you use a magnifying glass. It looks like this, but it's actually this size. Thus, this is called duckweed. And next is beautiful plant with beautiful flower. We call that water lily. Okay, now we shall continue with grouping plants. We have learned about names of plants. We have learned just now. You can check notes. I provide notes later, the link later, and you can check that again from the notes. And continue with our grouping plants. Plants can be grouped into height, which is tall and short, height, tall or short, and also size, which is big or small. So we can group plants into these two groups, that is height, either group tall or group short, or size, group big or group small. So how do we do it? Is by looking with your eyes to observe the plant so we can put them in the correct group. Now we start with this. Now let's take a look. Now coconut palm or coconut tree. What do you think that the coconut palm in what group? Coconut palm should be in what group? Now, coconut palm should be in tall group and also in big group. So coconut palm is tall and big. Coconut palm is tall and big. So how about the next plant? Moss, this one, moss, this one, the one under the tree. Now, moss is in the short group. It's very short and small, and it's very small, this size. I think maybe smaller, I'm not sure, but this size, you can check this at home. It's very small. Okay, now let's take a look at other example. Now let's take a look here. Grouping plant, coconut tree would be tall group, and moss would be in the short group like this, and moss also small, and coconut tree big. Okay, good. Next plant would be rambutan tree, and rambutan tree, if you can see here, it's in the tall group. You can see here it's taller than the man, taller than this man. See, rambutan tree is taller, and it's also can get bigger. The bush, the leaves, the branches are big. And next, watermelon plant. Watermelon plant grows on the ground. So watermelon is short and quite small. The plant itself is quite small. The fruit is big, but the plant is small. Okay, so rambutan tree would be in tall group and it's big. Watermelon plant would be in short group and it's small. Next plant would be maple tree. Obviously, maple tree is tall and big. And Ixora plant that you can find in our school would be short and small. Yeah, it's not that short, but it's not as tall as maple tree. If you compare maple tree and Ixora, Ixora is quite short. So if you can see here, maple tree would be in a tall group, Ixora would be in a short group. See? Now next plant, mango tree. Obviously, mango tree would be in a tall group and it's a big plant. And pine tree also in the tall group and it's a big plant. So their group would be mango tree and pine tree. Sorry, mango tree and pine tree would be here in this group, tall group, tall. Okay, next plant, bracken fern, a short group, short plants and small plants. Is not that small, but it is considered small. So, and maidenhair also short and small, so we can put it in this group. Maidenhair and bracken-fern in the short group and it's small. Next plant would be frangipani tree. Frangipani tree would be in a tall group. Yes, frangipani is taller, tall than Ixora, taller than Ixora, taller than me. And then it's a bit big, not that small, it's considered big. But to compare with bougainvillea plant, you can plant it on a vase, so it is short and it is small. But some bougainvillea can grow long. Long is different. It can grow long, but can grow on a house. But then it is considered short. It's only grow long, not grow up. It cannot grow tall. Okay. So bougainvillea in the short group and frangipani tree under the tall group. Now next, Rafflesia plant. Rafflesia. Now one story about Rafflesia. Rafflesia is one of the smelliest plant. I think it's the smelliest plant in the world. If it blooms like this, if you find, it smells like dead animals. That's from what I heard. I never smell it myself, but in the internet they say Rafflesia flower. This is a flower. Now let me tell you, this is a flower. Okay, Rafflesia flower smells like dead animal. Now Rafflesia's flower, Rafflesia plant is short, no wrong, and big. Uh, short and big, short and big than this child. And flame of the forest tree, tall and big. So we put them in this group. Where's the group? Flame of the forest and Rafflesia plant here, and big. Now there's a difference. Everything is small except Rafflesia is quite big. Big. The flower is big. Okay, now next plant, duckweed. Obviously, duckweed is short and small. And water lily. Water lily, you can find it in lakes, not rivers, or maybe ponds, and it is short and small. So it would be in this group. Excellent. We also, if you compare this and this, now this is the tall group and this is the short group. We can also group this like this. So this is the big group and this is the small group. So like I said, we shall learn about two ways of grouping: by height, tall or short, and also by size, big or small. So this is big plants, this is small plants. Excellent. So another way of grouping plants, that is by flowering and non-flowering. So we need to learn this. We need to learn how to group plants by flowering and non-flowering plants. Let me move here. Oh, excellent. Okay. Uh, Now there will be, we shall learn two more groups. The characteristic is flowering and non-flowering. These two groups, flowering and non-flowering, have their own characteristic. That is flowering plant. Remember here, flowering plants are plants that produce flowers, that grow flowers, that give out flowers. Is the same meaning. So any plants that have flowers are called flowering plant, can be called flowering plant. If it produce flowers, you call them flowering plant. If they do not produce flowers, it is called non-flowering plant. Plants that do not produce flowers are called non-flowering. So remember, flowering, produce flowers or have flowers. Non-flowering, do not produce flowers. Never, no, none, no flowers at all. This one, no flowers at all. So you call that non-flowering. Okay, next characteristic of a flowering and non-flowering plant would be flowering. Some flowering plant here, some flowering plant have fruits, and this side, all non-flowering plant do not have fruit. Now remember, flowering plant, those that have fruits, means it is a flowering plant. So any kind of plants that have fruits or produce fruits are called flowering plant. This one, flowering plant. Yang ada buah, flowering plant. Yang ada bunga, flowering plant. Here, yang nada buah, do not have fruit, non-flowering plant. Plants that do not nada bunga, non-flowering plant. Okay, nada bunga, non-flowering plant. Excellent. Okay, now remember that characteristic. These four flowering plants have two characteristic: plants that produce flowers and also have fruits. Some, not all, some have fruits. Non-flowering plants, plants that do not produce flowers and they do not have fruits. Okay, next we shall move on grouping plants based on those characteristics. Okay, let's take a look. I'm right in the middle. Excellent. Here. Okay. Excellent. Now, this is the two group. This is the two group, flowering plant and non-flowering plant. And we shall fill in these two groups, two groups with the flowers that we have learned just now. Okay, we start with coconut palm. Coconut palm or coconut tree, it produces fruits. Now, like I said, plants with fruits are called flowering plant. Okay, here, see? Now, next, that is the flower. Special picture for you. That is the flower of a coconut. Before coconut becomes a coconut round, it comes from this flower first. Then it change into a fruit. Now, next plant, moss. Moss here, moss. Moss does not produce flowers, no fruit. So you call them non-flowering plant. That is non-flowering plant group. Okay, next. So moss would be at the non-flowering plant group. Coconut tree would be at flowering plant group. Excellent. So let's take a look at next. Okay, there are two that I haven't changed the picture. Doesn't really matter. Now rambutan tree. Rambutan tree, obviously here small picture is the flower. So this is flowering plant. And this is a watermelon. Watermelon, and this is the flower of a watermelon. So this is also flowering plant. So both would be at the flowering plant group. Excellent. Now next plant would be maple tree. Maple tree would be in the, now let's take a look, flowering plant, and this is its flower. And next picture, obviously Ixora plant. Ixora plant, this is Ixora flower. So Ixora flower would be flowering plant. Now this is a flowering plant. Both are flowering plants. So both would be in flowering plant group. Wait, maple tree and Ixora plant. Next, mango tree. Obviously mango tree have fruits, which is a mango, and mango fruit, plants with fruits are flowering plants, and this is the mango flower and some of the mango fruit. Our next plant would be pine tree. Pine tree do not have flower, and pine tree do not have fruits, so it's a non-flowering plant. Now sometimes when you see pine tree and they got like this cone, it looks like a cone. It produces cones, and cones are not its fruit. Sometimes pokok macam ni ada macam bulat, macam cone, bukan buah tu. Bukan bunga, bukan buah. So, it's called non-flowering group. It's in non-flowering group. So, let's take a look. Mango tree would be here, and pine tree would be non-flowering plant group. So, next picture, let's talk about bracken, both ferns, bracken fern and maidenhair fern. Now, both of these plants are non-flowering because they do not produce flowers. No flowers, no fruit. And they have spores, what we call spores. Usually, kalau buah, usually if it's a fruit, uh, fruit macam mango, example mango, and you will have seed, dalamnya ada seed, ada biji. Dalam mango tu ada seed. So this seed, bijinya tu, when we plant, it will grow into a new mango tree. But for fern, for these two fern, they do not have seeds like that. They have spores. This one, wait, they have spores. This one, the small dots are called spores, and these spores are like seed. It's not seed, dah sama, bukan seed, tapi it like seed, macam saja. And the spores will grow into new fern plant. So both of this, bracken fern and maidenhair fern, are in the non-flowering plant group. You can see here there are two groups, flowering plant group. This is non-flowering. So next plant would be frangipani tree. Obviously, it's a flowering plant. And bougainvillea plant, also a flowering plant. That's too obvious here. We will place this here, frangipani and bougainvillea. Next plant would be Rafflesia plant. Like I said, this is one of the biggest, maybe the biggest flower in the world, or one of the biggest flowers in the world, and it smells like that animal. So this is a flower. This is a flower. So this would be flowering plant. And next, this is a flower for the flame of the forest tree. So this is also flowering plant. So it would be in this group, Rafflesia plant and flame of the forest. Next, duckweed. Duckweed. Duckweed is green in color, and it does not produce flowers. It do not produce fruit. So it's a non-flowering plant. And water lily, obviously this is the plant and this is the flower, so you call that flowering plant. So these two, water lily will be placed in flowering plant group, and duckweed would be in a non-flowering plant group. Now remember, flowering plant are plants that have flowers and sometimes have fruit. It produces fruits. For non-flowering plant, this side are non-flowering plant, no flower, no fruit. Is easy. Okay, excellent. So you shall continue with your exercises. Links will be provided under the YouTube video, or maybe through any kind of social class dojo. I think I will put it there. Of course, what I need you to do is read the notes. I will give the notes from these slides. I will save it as PDF, and you can read it again as notes and do exercise provided through Google Form or Microsoft Form. So let's recap week 2 lesson. Number 1, plants can be classified into different size, big size and small size. Plants can be grouped into big or small. Plants can also be grouped into tall or short. And the third one is plants can be grouped or classified into flowering plants and non-flowering plants. Again, flowering plants means plants that have flowers, and some would have fruits. Non-flowering plants mean plants that do not have flowers and do not have fruits. Okay, excellent. Now, thank you for watching the lesson. Okay, for new people, for new subscribe, you can subscribe my video. For new pupils, you can subscribe my video here, or like and share my video to all year 3 pupils in Brunei Darussalam. This is year 3 lesson, so you share to year 3 friends and families. Thank you very much. Until next week, next lesson. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and see ya.